You are a writer now, but at what age did you start writing? Or at what age did you think, oh, I think I could put down a piece or two?
Yeah, it's a question that is, I think, a little bit nuanced because, um, writing, as soon as any child picks up the skill of writing, they're writing things because the point is not that they are able to write to convey. And children are full of stories. So I think the key thing is that is there a story to tell that is coherent. So in that sense, I liked telling stories from much early on. And one of the things is when you read, I suppose as a child, replication is something that comes.
Yeah.
So you read and then you want to write something that like what you read, you see. So I started doing stuff like that very, very early on maybe 6 or so. But I don't see that as definitive because I think everybody does that when they start reading. But then it's in much later years that I would say that I did feel that I had stories to tell that might be worth reading. And I think it went through some phases. First, I thought I had things to tell that other people might be interested in. And then later, I thought that I had stories to tell that I myself am interested in and bugger the people who want to read them anyway. But later, I then sort of got to a balance where you have something to tell, but you do know that people are going to read it and they have a certain interest, and so you have to do it well.
Yeah.
You're not just writing things because you want to write, but you have to calibrate the story so that people can appreciate, and that I think takes some doing. So in terms of becoming a writer, that came much later in life. I would suppose that well into my early teens, I don't think I was, even though I was writing all the time, I don't think any of that stuff was reasonable.
Okay. But you're doing a good job as a writer and editor here in Ghana. Professionally, you are from a science background and you are currently the senior lecturer at the Department of Physics, University of Ghana. Is writing something you've always wanted to do? As a scientist, how do you develop and refine your writing and editing skills now that you are doing this and we recognize your work?
Yeah, I don't know that it's... I guess this goes for many artists in general that... I don't think that writing is something that you, at a point, you'd want to do. You'd think of it as some sort of punishment that was inflicted on you and probably want to do other things in your life, really. But you do have things that you want to write about in terms of story. So there's a certain story that you feel you'd like to tell, and it is a compelling enough reason to want to write. So in that sense, it's not, it's more like something that you feel that you have to do, more or less. It's not really that you like it. And especially for many people who are writing and come from different professional backgrounds, it is very hard to do the two. It's not like you have time to sit down, reflect, drink your tea in the morning, write, and then, it's not like that. You are doing the full grind of a professional work. So I think that it is more of compulsion than will in terms of writing. But you do mention working as a scientist. It's a question that I have no answer to. I get asked this question like twice a
Several
week,
times.
and I don't know the answer because really I don't see. Maybe from the an external perspective, it looks different. But I mean, if somebody is a good cook and they also are a nurse, or they are a good gardener, they have a nice garden, and they are a driver or something. I mean, you don't think it's strange, right?
But I think the reason why we ask this question is because there are two different backgrounds.
So is cooking and nursing. I mean, the point I'm trying to drive at is that it is something that you are doing, right? So sometimes it's like, how did I end up doing these two different things, and I like them, right? So I'm still doing them. But I can't point to, I mean, like I sat down and planned and I'm going to do this, and then I will do this as well, and put the two together, and there's a balance. It's really chaotic. I mean, you don't know what's happening. All you know is that there are things to deliver at work. You try and deliver them, and then there's this story idea you want to write, and you write it when you have the time, and you just try to keep the balance one way or the other. Yeah.
Wow. So when do you find time to write in a day?
Yeah, it's a good question. Depends on what I'm writing, isn't it? If it's storytelling, I mean, there's no time. I mean, currently in my life, I don't have time. This is my problem. If you could lend me some of your life,
or maybe we can add hours to your day.
Yeah,
instead of 24, make it 32.
All the people here can agree to die a year. Give me the extra time. So the thing is, there's no time. I think this is general for most working people. There's very little time available. And so what I do generally, fortunately, I have that type of mind which can construct several different stories over long periods of time. And they are pretty much developing in my head. So the day I find some and say that, okay, so this is what I'm going to do, or I feel that this story is well enough done, I will then start to write it, and depending on what it is, it might take a week or two. I mean, these are short stories.
Okay.
So there are stories in my head all the time, 3 or 4 stories that are more or less being written in my head, I should say. So if you count that as writing, then I do it all the time. So when I sit down with my computer or a pen and paper, then that's where the transcription starts.
Okay. So also, moving away from reading and writing, let's move to publishing. I always say that Ghana has writers and we have readers. However, there's a large gap in the middle, and that's publishing. You are the co-founder of the Writers Project of Ghana. The system is broken. Currently, Ghana only prints textbooks and religious books. Says 95% of our books are printed here are textbooks and religious books. As a result, there's a slow but steady decline in the publishing of literary works such as, of course, creative work, online magazines and stuff. How do we fix this broken system or mend the huge gap in this, in the middle?
You know, it's interesting you put it that way. I can see that there's something which is it doesn't seem to fit right, but that is not necessarily indicative of something that is broken. You know, when you talk about the fact that most publishing is educational and religious, you know, I think that we would have to drill down a little bit deeper, because religious books per se are not uninteresting. I mean, I can point to Dante's Divine Comedy, which is a really, really prominent work of art. So it's in the Middle Ages of, I think it was in the 16th. Dante was, I think, 16th or 17th century Italian. And so, and that is actually a religious work, right? And it is of significant literary merit. So if there are writings of that caliber being output currently, which I don't think is so. I think the point you are raising is that there's lots of religious books, but they are not the kind of books that are of any merit anywhere. I mean, whether literary or anything. I mean, 7 ways to, I mean,
to get rich,
etc., etc.
2 ways to live a holy life.
22 ways to finish reading this book without opening your eyes, etc., etc. But I mean, so I mean, that kind of thing doesn't really have